stress definitely starts to get you a little bit, especially with the Ench. You don't have that much lockdown, but Pudge, it's Arkosh. Here we
Mhm.
go.
Well, I mean, it did get improved with the patch, to be perfectly honest. Even without the patch sort of making those changes, I think they might have thought about it anyway, just because it's Arkosh. They've got themselves a Pudge player. So, uh, we'll see exactly how really they end up laning this out in terms of who actually is paired up with whom here. Because the Pudge does have, I can't believe I'm actually saying it, but maybe the most versatility out of the three so far in terms of what lane he can go to. So we'll have to wait and see just how aggressive they want to get with that Pudge play. For Zoomers, meanwhile, though, picking up the Sven for themselves with that third selection.
And they're going to be very happy with this Sven because he doesn't really need to be scared of anyone so far. But something that Arkosh always do when they do inevitably pick up this Pudge is they try to set it up. A lot of times they pair it with the Force Sniper where you have the Ag shot into the hook. I think right now having lift is just not enough to make those hooks as guaranteed. And is 25 mana really enough to put this hero into the limelight? We'll see. I don't know what position it's necessarily going into yet. Of course, you want to say that Gremlo is going to be taking it, but you got Monkeys Forever thrown into the mix. So how they end up laning things could definitely be a little bit interesting, whether we see a 5 Punch or a 5 Rubik, but we'll probably see more pronounced in their draft with this next pick where everybody's going to end up going.
I like that Dark Willow pick from the Four Zoomers side, something we have certainly seen quite a bit from for Four Zoomers. Both Husky and Z Freak play it pretty frequently for them, so you've got that agitator, you've got that little bit of extra lockdown to work with as well, just to try and make life as difficult as possible for the rest of the Arkosh cores. We haven't really seen any of them yet, but we do see the Luna now, so the Luna to go toe-to-toe with the Sven in that carry position.
Yeah, and again, very classic hero. You like to play versus the Tide Hunter. You just have that little bit of nuke damage. Doesn't feel like the Luna's ever really going to get shut out either. In addition to that, you're just a flash farmer. You're stable. It's probably one of Pale Horse's favorite heroes, I think. I think he plays it a lot in his games, at least the ones that I've seen. And it's just going to slot into their lineup pretty nicely. Is that the setup for the hook, though? With the level 10 talent to give him the mini stun, even though it is a pretty nice hero, I think, in the scheme of the game, I'm still seeing if this gamble in the Pudge is going to pay off, and that's something that Arkosh haven't proven just yet for me. If they're able to get a hero like maybe the Void Spirit in the mid lane, I think that could be the setup, some sort of Aether Remnant, Yules. I think they need something coming in from Canis Volpus to really allow this lineup to flex their muscles, because there are a whole bunch of burst damage and no control aside from Split, and Monkeys is great at what he does, but I feel like this is a game where it's really going to feel like he's grasping at straws if he has to do absolutely everything.
Yeah, if your split on the Brewmaster is sort of supported by the rest of the lineup, then you can do great things. If you have to wait for that split to take any sort of fight whatsoever, it's just that's not going to work. You're hoping your Luna sort of pulls you out of it 35 plus minutes into the game at that stage. So very interested to see what sort of playmaking heroes they look for. For Zoomers, banned out the Lesh as well as the Kunkka. The Kunkka may be a little bit more in that aggressive playmaking zone than someone like the Leshrac is, but still a situation here. They really do not want to let Canis Vulpus get that just sort of run over you kind of hero. They don't want that playmaker available, so they go for the bans there. Arkosh, meanwhile, Ember and Puck. High mobility, high damage, so both teams sort of looking in the same direction right now.
Ooh, is it? Okay. And that's the perfect steal. That's not just a really good pick for four Zoomers, it's also a really solid deny pick. I think Canis Volpus would have been really pleased if he was able to get that hero. And interesting from four Zoomers, whenever they don't have last pick, they really like to first phase, second phase Gunners heroes typically. So I think waiting all the way till now to steal the Void Spirit out, it feels like they kind of paced it out nicely, even though this isn't something that four Zoomers typically like to do with their first pick drafts. But honestly, they got exactly the hero they wanted, and they took what would probably be Arkosh's key players. So now, what does Canis Volpus want to play? Is he just going to go for the Storm Spirit that he really likes to play, but that puts you, again, more item-dependent, more item-reliant on your power spikes? Well, we'll see.
Oh,
An OD. Okay. Got some buffs. It's again, that's a Canis Volpus classic hero, but We'll see what he's able to do because maybe that's your setup for Hook finally.
I'm not gonna say that I forgot that OD was a hero, but I kind of forgot OD was a hero in the game. But yeah, they'll take it. That's certainly unexpected, but again, you know what? At the end of the day, it's Arkosh, right? So they will do as they please. Gives us an interesting matchup in that middle lane. And I think one last point, you were sort of mentioning it with them going for Gunner's hero so late there. Honestly, I think early on, that might be the effect of having Moo be the drafter. You said before they liked to pick up their mid laner earlier on, and now with Moo sort of at the helm making some of those decisions, they go for something a little bit more traditional, let's say, in terms of the actual draft order. It still leaves them now laning against an OD, which we'll see how that goes, but they were able to set themselves up for something that may not be better, but at least felt less dangerous throughout the draft.
Yeah, and maybe it's the EE effect, right? I feel like in 90% of their games in that iteration, it was always, what is Envy going to play? Last pick hero here. He needs to do everything in the draft. It's, again, that more stable style that they adopted in some of their games in that iteration of Four Zoomers, but it does feel like they're full-heartedly running in this more, again, lane-oriented power spike style. It's going to be interesting to see how far they can push it because that is where the chaos does sort of seep in, and if you play a little bit too safe, then you do end up just a little bit less net worth than your opponents, and that's where the game can definitely get a little bit hairy. But we'll have to see, especially with an ultra farmer like Costa Bila. I can only imagine that Gunner and Moo are just going to try to make plays all the time.
And they're going to look for that edge, try to get up. That is something, as you mentioned, Costa Bila, he can still farm. I don't want to say he's not that sort of traditional late game carry, but compared to maybe a lot of his constituents at that position in North and South America, he is far more often capable of maybe turning off the farm levels and going for those fights earlier than his counterpart might. So we see them already trying to get aggressive here early on. That is a 5-man smoke from both sides, actually, but they end up pretty much just crossing over the river at opposite ends. The warding, though, being thrown down here by Arkosh. Both of the wards deployed on that opposite side. Now Moo, that's not where you want to be. Slowed up, hooked back, and he is going to be taken down. Monkeys gets the kill, and, well, it was a nice maneuver by both teams at the start, but Arkosh managed to sort of hold their position, and Moo's curiosity sort of ends up doing him in here, but Gunner he's thinking about it. They get stun in from the Sven, they're going to dish out that damage, and Crow will be taken down to sort of tie that up at 1-1, but if you're Arkosh, you did get first blood, and you got the valuable of those kills. Gremlo, okay. That is 2 hook connections in a row here. A little bit of extra damage onto Gunner, which isn't going to set up for anything, but hey, your Void Spirit's got to burn through a little bit of that regen, so that makes that mid matchup maybe slightly harder for him.
Yeah, and there's no way Moo could have known. It is really sneaky, but also just playing to your strength. You've got the Luna, you got the nighttime advantage, you know what you're getting into, and some really nice wards placed from both sides, but kind of to that same point where nobody in the mid lane is placing their mid ward anymore. They're so afraid of getting D-ward. It's just too big of an advantage to give away, so it's going to feel pretty safe around those runes.
So, it is going to be the Luna Pudge, or not matchup, but laning duo. So, you talked about it a little bit in the draft. Pale Horse could go for that mini stun at level 10, and then we'll see if Gremlo, okay, has the setup. Doesn't really need it there. He's just connecting with the hooks all day, but really, this is not a lane where Gremlo's going to be able to do too much early. Moo did get taken down once, but he is going to be insanely tanky. Gremlo would have to get the hook off in a position where Pale Horse is basically right there next to him to even try anything.
Yeah, and the bigger problem is that Gremlo is going to really need to play in this large camp, and one that he's trying to keep available to him as much as he can, but Z-Freak very simply body blocks it. The biggest advantage of this Pudge hero is that you do have that more efficient hook to push into the large camp and just get your XP that way, because as soon as you start sapping from this Luna, it's a melee 5 with Luna. You're not going to be able to trade quite as nicely with the Lunar Blessing advantage that usually you do have, and that's where I think for Zoomers, they really need to do very little to be successful in this lane.
Meanwhile, over on the other side, Kasabile, not really dealing with too much pressure. In fact, it's Husky coming in here with the Centaur. They started off with that stun into the follow-up stomp. I don't know if they actually have the damage for this, but Crow, he is not in a fun spot right now. There's the impetus hit, and it's going to be enough. He did have a salve, but I don't think he saw that last shot coming in until it was too late.
Yeah, and it's just not able to get control of these camps. I'm surprised that with that first smoke from Arkosh, they didn't play more heavily in Husky's jungle because there's nothing. There's a ward scouting him coming over, but there's no sentries, there's nothing blocking the camps, and that's where Crow needs to be much more careful with his positioning. Otherwise, that's going to happen. There's nothing you can do.
Mm-hmm. Especially with Costabile just having that point up in the Stormhammer. It is exclusively there for a just in case, right? If something like that happens, we've got a Centaur, and well, this Rubik's a little bit too far away. They can quickly make that move, and Monkey is... he can't protect his teammate right now. Maybe a Thunderclap is useful, but if you have Husky and Costabile coming at you sort of full blast, you're not going to be able to hold them back this early.
Yeah, and they haven't played Dota in a while, so it is going to feel a little bit hard. But even Monkeys, he feels like he needs to block the large camp, and Husky has gotten very lucky. You get a Centaur in the large camp, and then you get the piercing damage ghost in your small. So we'll see if he does need to be a little bit more hard pressed to get these creeps. But they even have vision of the camp
Got the hook
here.
on Z Freak.
Yeah.
Very nice Shadow Realm proc, though. Is it going to be enough to get him away? They
more
need
beam?
the vision, but they don't have it. Good slow from Moo there just to make sure Pale Horse couldn't get into position. Crow, what? Don't even know how I did.
No clue.
What
I think he just tipped Gunner. I don't know what happened.
Huh. Alright, well. Yeah, you see something new every day in Dota, I suppose, but good play there all the same from Z-Freak to get out of that situation. It is gonna sort of take him out of lane for a little while, which does mean Moo is in a bit of a rough spot. Actually, a really rough spot there as Gremlo's pushing in with the first point up in the rot. It's not a massive amount of damage, but it's just gonna be really annoying now for the Tidehunter. He is tanky, but he's going to have to deal with maybe not effective harassment, but now potentially consistent harassment on him.
Yeah, and nice hook again.
But there's that same play. Z-Freak trying to get away. The Rot, though, still slowing him up, and he may go down. Gremlo gets the kill, and Moo, he threw out the gush. Didn't really matter much. Gremlo's able to make it happen, and Arkosh even us up at 2-2.
Yeah, and really, the danger zone ends for Moo once he gets this hood delivered, but that's where Gremlo's hitting his shots. He's getting the hook onto the vulnerable target, and even gets the second point up in the rot just because he knows that it's that persistent damage is what's going to do the legwork here. Unfortunately, you did kill the 4, so that means Gunner is going to get a pretty nice reset here with the Bono refill mid, but still, I think the Tide is going to be very happy in his lane. They are steadfast running out of damage. Unless you get hooked under tower, I think Moo is going to be pretty much fine for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and this may be the point where we... Well, okay. There's the hook. He's stuck in the trees. He's actually stuck. Oh, wait. There we go. Okay. Had the Quelling Blade, but by this point, it's a little bit too late. I'm not sure if it was on cooldown or if he cut the wrong tree initially, because he did have to wait a bit, and unfortunately that extra time got him the kill, so you said they basically needed to hook him under tower. They do accomplish it, and now mid, Gunner was so
close.
Jesus. The salve from Z-Freak's going to heal him up, but Canis Vulpus on this OD. This is actually especially interesting in this matchup. Taking away the max mana for a Void Spirit, that's not fun. That's not okay. Gunner has such a limited capacity to go for any sort of combo play here. And well, at this point, he might just actually have to go back. No bottle charges. He got the salve earlier, but Z-Freak's now gone, so gotta play very carefully here.
Yeah, this next rune is going to be really important, but I do think he's just going to have to go back. All your spells are so expensive, and it's unfortunate that Canis Vulpus isn't able to get that soul kill there. He played it really well around the fact that he was hitting his level 6 just 1 or 2 creeps before Gunners, but unfortunately, you whiff that kill and you lose a really big spell. It's interesting that he's going for the Astral build, especially because of the buffs to Essence Flux in 730E. It does feel like the hit build is really consistent now, but going to rely on some older strats maybe. But yeah, running around. Clipped him?
Yeah, he's got the TP, but some style points there for the Rubik for sure as... Okay, Costabile, he just popped the ult. They're going to go in. Monkeys, he doesn't have his ult. He's not level 6 yet, so he has nothing here, and... Well... That is actually kind of spectacular. Crow gets off the cliff, but Husky realizes, okay, their Rubik is not in the lane. We can just go in for the fight. TP's in, pop the ult on Sven, and they find that pickoff. And then in the top lane, Z-Freak and Moo able to combine forces to bring down Gremlo as well. So back-to-back kills for that 4-zoomer side across the map.
Yeah, and it's just a little power spikes, and now Gunner, sick of getting abused mid, is looking for the kill, but Pale Horse is being really patient here, as well as almost having that Meteor Hammer finished up. This is where the rotations are really going to hurt Gunner, but we'll have to see. If they play too heavy set up here, they can definitely get punished, but looks like everyone will ease off the pressure. But, oh, the hook?
Oh, they got it. They pulled in move.
Again?
Still stuck in that tree line. Pale Horse is coming in with the Eclipse. Gremlin's dropping low, but they should still get the kill. Should still get the kill. Should still get the kill.
Pale Horse.
Okay, they got a kill, but I mean, Moo's dead to rights there. He shifts his focus onto Zfreak to try and make it 2. Instead, that's a 1-for-1 trade that really I don't think they're going to be, maybe not upset with, but not happy with. They had the shot. Moo could not have gotten away if the Luna had just sort of kept focus on him.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because now you have this 2-2-2 skill build on the Luna. You skilled a point up in Eclipse before level 10. You know, this is a much less farm-oriented Luna to try and give this Tide a bad time, but still, it's crazy that they can even go for that kill, really because of the Pudge, but yeah, mid.
Jumping in, Canis Vulpus low, Crow, good TP forward. They turn around with the same Eclipse, but Gunner surviving by the skin of his teeth again. That's the second time so far that he's been able to survive on that sliver of HP, and I mean, Crow's trying his best, but Fade Bolt wasn't available. He didn't even have the mana for it then either, so if he's got that, yeah, sure, maybe you can snipe out the Void Spirit kill. Instead, it's another pick for 4 Zoomers. They put together about 3 or 4 in a row now, maybe getting some momentum for themselves. Of course, Gunner has to go all the way back to base again, which is not ideal, but they won the fight. They got the kill onto the OD, and they're starting to feel maybe a little bit more confidence in their own lineup. All the while, this Sven's really just been kind of left alone.
Yeah, and this is really the problem. Monkey's just got his 6 on this wave. That is the spell that's going to allow them to get some of these larger scale team fights going, but it just feels like right now Arkosh are so behind in levels compared to their opponents, and that's where heroes like Enchantress and Mirana, where they're able to play around the neutrals just that little bit more. I mean, we've got a level 5.5 Enchantress just running at your tower, making plays constantly, has a full medallion. Husky's just kind of rocking the map right now, and there's no real way for Arkosh to get back into the game aside from that split, and that's where heroes like the Rubik and the Pudge really feel bad when you don't have any lane to sit them in, because they want to get levels. They want to play on their own game when they're kind of forcing themselves into these team fights, and I don't know how it's going to work out for them.
You see Arkosh attempting to group up for a push into the bottom lane, but they do a decent bit of damage, but this is not exactly a prolific trio in terms of tower damage, so Four Zoomers have plenty of time if they want to TP somebody down. They do have their, oh, they had their glyph, they will pop it there, and really that's going to be enough. Arkosh don't want to mess around, and they know if somebody comes to fight, things get a little bit dicey for them, but it looked like for a moment the fight was coming mid. Zfreak sort of had the wraparound, but the angle wasn't quite what they needed. Canis Vulpus is able to sort of sidestep it, but you see 4 Zoomers. Look at the group up here. They want another tower. They know at this point map control is well within their grasp, or as much map control as you can have at the 10-minute mark, but they're going for it, and Canis Vulpus needs backup here. Otherwise, they just can't hold this, but he's going to get caught, pulled in by the Remnant. They got the Curse Crown down onto him. He's going to Astral himself. Moo, meanwhile, doesn't have the mana for the Ravage, and Monkey's just used the split, so this may be 4 Zoomers' cue to back up, but there's going to be the Cyclone, throwing the Tidehunter up in the air. Storm Panda sort of doing some work there, and I'm not really sure how much further they can go. Monkeys is just using that ult as sort of a buffer there, as Gremlo very nearly pulled off that combo, but like a pixel off maybe, as Gunner's able to survive that, but that's a lot that you sort of had to throw out there. Now without the split, if you're Arkosh, I'm not sure that you're really willing to go in for another fight. Yes, you do still have the Sanities as well as the Meteor Hammer, but a lot of your teamfight power has really just been taken off the table now.
Yeah, and now everything is going to be reliant on whether or not Canis Vulpus could actually do anything. The problem is, again, with the Enchantress creeps, they just scout your rotation so quickly, and you are not the most dynamic duo. There's really no form of dynamic plays happening on Arkosh's side. It really is just Astral into Hook. That's how they get into these engagements, and without the split, they just have to play defensive. I think the entire reason this mid tower is still standing right now is just because Ghost of Belay wants to farm instead, and he doesn't have the God Strength, and they're still playing around this mid area trying to defend it, but it's just getting whittled down, and I mean, it's 55 HP. It's more or less dead.
Will they go for the deny
Oh, they're
here?
even denying it, yeah.
even the Astral, but with the Astral down, Gunner, look at him, he's getting a little aggressive, but Crow, smart move there. Uses that telekinesis to sort of force him to back off. Stole the Remnant, which, could be useful. Level 1, it's not going to be a massive sort of amount of damage or anything, but a little bit of extra control for the Rubik if it does come down to a fight. But again, you need to wait. You need the split. It's 30 seconds out, but while they waited, you've lost your tier 1 both top and mid. So all of a sudden this north side jungle, not exactly safe territory. You can see Husky making his way up here, and under normal circumstances, your Brew is not backing away from the Enchantress, and he's not backing away because he's going to lose a 1v1 against the Enchantress, but if the Enchantress is there, someone else can be there fairly quickly as well. That's what they've got to show respect to as go. Okay, this is a weird interaction, but I think they're going to be able to get the stun down. Nice. Hook into Astral, into Meteor Hammer, and that's a kill they really desperately needed, especially with it going into Canis Vulpes' hands.
Yeah, and that's something that Gunner actually needs to be really careful about. If you give the Aether Remnant over to Crow, that is your way to die. He had another jump there. He should have been fine, but because he gave the Rubik over that spell, even though it's only level 1, it's the Chain Disable into Hammer, and you can't be affording too many of those deaths. Of course, he's got a DD rune. I can only imagine he's going to get more aggressive pretty soon here, and unfortunately that hook bottom is going to whiff, so I think Z-Freak is completely fine. But it's those little plays that they need to do to kind of get themselves back here, because I think right now, four Zoomers are just playing the defensive game, and do nothing Dota, as boring as it is, you are farming with the Sven, who is getting very big, and monkeys in the trees.
They want it, they got the stun, they get the slow, they've got the God Strength out, and yeah, monkeys, not a lot to do there. He had the split, but using it in that situation doesn't really help anybody, so he will take the fall. Four Zoomers get the kill. The only downside of that kill, they're not immediately in a position to really push for much else. Costabile can use the last few moments of the God Strength to continue farming, but no immediate sort of tower push, no rotation anywhere else coming before that God Strength would wear away. But it doesn't matter too much. He's going to take the camps. You have the Brewmaster off the board again, and as we've repeatedly stated, without that Brewmaster, without that split, Arkosh's options in terms of aggressive maneuvers are incredibly limited.
Yeah, and now you've got full map control, more or less. You always get to run back into the river and cut off these waves, and what do your opponents do? You're trying to get as much farm as you can, and to Pillhorse's credit, you are getting a lot of farm on this Luna. Unfortunately, it is a tight Luna game. You need to get BKB immediately. You're going to not really have the time to play around that shard crit timing. You're playing versus a Sven, so everything is going to become, what are we doing in the downtime for God Strength? Can we even punish our opponents here? And there are definitely power spikes for Arkosh to hit, but they are going to be another 5-10 minutes away, where you're going to have BKB on both cores and this Aghanim Scepter on the Brew, and it's just free time for four Zoomers.
They want the push down bot. Gunner's smoke just popped, so they know someone's nearby.
Oh.
There it is. They've got it. Canis Vulpes pulled in by the Remnant. He's going to have to try and go for the TP out, but
They got a Ravage. Oh.
Okay.
Z-Freak.
Nice. Saves the Ravage, gets in there with that root, and Canis Vulpes does get taken down. So for a moment, it looked like maybe, just maybe, Canis Vulpes gets away, but they will catch him out. And now Costabile, he's going to go for a quick kill, blinking his way onto Crow, but he gets hooked back in by Gremlo. Gremlo, he's got the ult. He's trying to hold it as long as he can, but that buys time for Gunner to arrive. And yeah, Pale Horse is bailing. Gremlo does not have any backup, and now it's going to go from bad to worse. Monkeys is forced to use the split, but with the Luna already running away, there is no fight here. This is just going to have to be Monkeys trying to get himself out under his own power, and that's not really going well. They just they kill every single spirit, and that goes so poorly. It starts with Gremlo sort of getting that. Actually, it doesn't start with that. It starts with Costabile just annihilating the Rubik. But beyond that point, you thought maybe Arkosh could turn that around. Instead, they lose 3 and get nothing really in exchange.
Yeah, and all of that happens because Husky has this ward placed from 7 minutes ago that's still stuck around here, because it never felt like Arkosh were really able to take back this hill. This has always been four Zoomers territory, whether it was the Tide coming and meeting the mid-wave, or it was Husky sending creeps, just always being obnoxious. Husky's really just playing so well on Ench. It feels like there's really no one to kill him this game, but there's also no one to really efficiently deal with his creeps, and It's a big smoke up from Arkosh. If they can get their picture-perfect opening where they get an Astral into hook, they take someone on Forzoomer's side, preferably not the Tidehunter, into their midst, that'd be good, but Moo's breaking smokes. He's not giving them any option, and
They don't have
they're
split.
looking
They
at
don't have
Gunner, but...
BKB on Luna either. I'm just not sure how they do this. The
Oh,
Ravage is
wow.
going to come through. The Fear getting deployed as well. Canis Vulpus just doesn't get to play. He's going to get hit up, taunted now by the Remnant, and he's dead. Eclipse is coming out from Pale Horse, but it's bouncing so well between these heroes. It's just not able to take down anyone in particular. Pale Horse, though, he's still fighting. They're getting Monkeys Forever back in there as well for a little bit of assistance, but now here's Costabile. This is where things get bad. Stun out from that Stormhammer into Pale Horse directly. They'll take him down. Moo, he does get sacrificed, but they're able to take down the Luna. Now they want more. Monkey's still on the run. No split for 35. The Curse Crown's going to lock him down, and they should have the damage to do this. Monkeys is going to give it a good run, but can't possibly get away fast enough. So, Zoomers sacrifice Moo, but you get yourself 2 or 3 kills. They go directly into the Roche Pit now with the God Strength, so really there's no contest here from Arkosh whatsoever. They've just got to let it go.
Yeah, and conceptually, that is a good move. You're playing around the fact that you don't think they know about this ward you have here that you've already placed before, and Zoomers were none the wiser to that vision coming in from Arkosh, but it's just the damage is a little bit too split. You're not at the broken stage of the game for a lot of your heroes. You press the issue when, honestly, you just got picked off not even a minute ago, so maybe you're trying to get your opponents off guard, but as soon as Costabile joins the fight, there really is no chance for them to win that engagement, and it does just feel like Zoomers are going to keep barreling towards this advantage that it doesn't feel like they're really ever going to want to give up. They need to wait for something, a new item. They got Husky.
Okay.
That's cool.
Nice. Good little 2-man game there. Hook into lift into Stormhammer was stolen away. So that's actually Husky's first death of the game. So his efficiency is, I mean, just incredible right now. But they do finally manage to bring him down. That's a nice little bit of gold going to them. But you need more, really, to just sort of oversimplify it. Arkosh, they have to get this Luna going. They need her to finish that BKB. It's been in the works for a while. But even with the BKB, do you have enough to deal with that physical damage? That sort of remains to be seen. And now, over on the other side, Costabile just got his own Black King bar, so even if you can make the jump, the Sven is almost guaranteed to be able to fight back against you, unless you somehow stunlock him forever, and even if you do that, he's got the Aegis to work with, so he'll just be right back up and into the fight.
Yeah, the biggest problem right now is Zoomers who are very cooldown reliant are not being forced around the map. They're trying so hard on Arkosh to force anyone to come bottom. They're trying to get their opponents to look at them, waste time trying to deal with their heroes. The problem is the threat isn't really that great. It's a Meteor Hammer hitting your tier 2 tower, and the damage has been good, but... Oh, big smoke.
Good play from Crow, popping that. I mean, he will pay for it, but... Oh, Gremlo. I needed to hit somebody. I'm not really sure who,
Monkeys.
but needed to connect. They're not going to get it. Now Monkeys is in trouble down in the bottom lane. They hit him up with Fear. No split coming out. He will get it out now, though, and maybe he can make his escape. They're trying to track him down, but he is doing a pretty good job of sending those in opposite directions, so...
No Ags, though, so they know.
Oh.
We all know.
That's unfortunate. So yeah, they're just going to keep the chase going. And Monkeys, well, immediately pulled back in. Well-timed and placed Remnant there from Gunner, and Costabile comes in for the kill. So it was a nifty trick, but yeah, without the upgrade, without the ability to choose where he goes, everybody knew, and Zoomers just set up for the kill. So initially I thought that was pretty fantastic. Crow's able to sacrifice himself to break a 4-man smoke, but losing Monkeys off the back of that too, and with his split being used there unsuccessfully, it's one step shy of really disaster for Arkosh.
Yeah, and again, we're still playing the dodge game. Your Luna is really farmed. She is still getting items at a really decent rate. The Shadow Blade is a little bit intriguing in his quick buy right now. I think he's trying to find some item that's going to allow him to actually play the game here, but it's unfortunate. We haven't seen really the setup ever happening, and then, well, Gunner shows up, and then you're dead.
Dismember at least buys him a couple extra seconds of life, so that's something, but can't delay the inevitable. Gunner will pick up the kill, and just unfortunate. They don't see him sort of coming in from the side. They've lost so much vision on their own side of the map right now that Gunner kind of has free reign. Speaking of which, Costabile jumping in with Husky. Monkeys split, still not back up, so he really had no defensive capabilities. And now, speaking of defensive capabilities, does Canis Vulpus have it? He's going to get jumped in on here. BKB not nearly close to being finished. And now in this 1v2, I do not think he's getting out. Rooted up, stunned by the Cursed Crown, and Z-Freak will bring him down. So it's just kill after kill ET all over the map right now for 4 Zoomers.
And look, a quarter HP Sven hitting your tier 2 tower, but okay.
Gremlo. Actually, the Dismember might have been the better... I don't know if he really had the pass range there without the Aether Lens, so... yeah, who knows? But they're going to try to get onto Moo. That's a big Eclipse right in his face, and Pale Horse will get the kill. Husky was trying to get into position, had the heals, and maybe could have taken a couple of those Lucent Beam hits as well, but he's just not in position, and Moo does get picked off, but we've seen this, what, 2-3 times so far in this game. If Moo sacrifices himself for 2 or 3 kills or a tower push, he is more than okay making that exchange.
Yeah, and Gunner and Z-Freak, they definitely do get caught just trying to do a little bit too much. I think the call should definitely be to get out, and they even ditch on that mid-tier 2 tower pretty early because they are afraid. They are in a 3v4 situation where they do end up losing hero. It is well-timed as well from Pale Horse, not getting shredded by the Blade Mail that, very interestingly, Moose decided to go for, just making the Death Ball even more difficult for them to deal with, but up until Pale Horse gets maybe a Scotty or a Satanic, it is going to still feel really hard. And they're doing a good job of playing around Costabile's God Strength. I think Costabile's been very efficient with it, but it is very telegraphed whenever he's making those plays. He really only uses it at this point to either two-shot Crow or hit onto those buildings. And with the Aegis gone, if you can catch the Sven somehow without BKB, without God, but yeah.
4-man smoke. They leave the Sven out there as sort of a red herring. Put him in vision, so Arkosh sort of lower their guard, and then the rest of 4 Zoomers make the move, and now they got the kill, they get the outpost, they can take the... okay. Good blink out there. So you will survive, but if you're 4 Zoomers, I don't really think you care about that. You take the tower. In the middle lane, Z-Freak, meanwhile, getting Monkeys Forever with the help of Gunner, so even when they don't, oh my goodness, don't get the play that they want, they're still making plays elsewhere. As Gremlo, well, this is not ideal. His teammates aren't here to protect him. Crow tried with telekinesis, but there's not much more to do, and they just don't have the manpower right now. Pale Horse is back, but this is not really a fight that you want to push into. You need to wait for teammates to respawn, but while you do so, that's your tier 3 dead, and your racks are under attack, and with a few, actually more than a few seconds left on the God Strength, Costable's not going to stop. Canis Vulpus will be respawning and TPing in. Maybe they can make the play now, but they've already lost that melee, and yeah, there's the BKB to protect the Sven. He's just going to walk away, and Arkosh, to be honest, that was probably the best play for them. I think if they really did commit for that fight, they could have lost even more. So they just got to cut their losses, but that leaves them half a lane of racks down and 13k behind their opponents. Looking for maybe a bit of a desperation move here. They smoke out of their base. They're looking to catch anybody sort of lagging behind.
But look at it. It's the Vanguard.
Oh, Moo jumps in, drops the Ravage. And Pale Horse, he is done. No buyback available for him at the moment. Meanwhile, Canis Vulpus is going to pop the BKB. Well, maybe with a well-placed ult he could do something here, but they've got to keep an eye on that Sven. Costabile has the blink. He's waiting for his moment. Gunner, though, jumping in first. They get Crow. Now they're on to Canis Vulpus. Good defensive hook, but it's not going to pull far enough. This is still a rough one for the OD, but the Astral puts the Sven under. He's going to try to get away, but now Moo blinks forward. Does he have the Gush? Yes, he does. Gets the slow down. They get the Remnant drop in as well. And Canis Vulpus, he tried. He ran. Gremlo helped him out with the hook, but it still isn't enough. Gunner picks up the triple. And, well, I guess they could swing bot at this point. Go for the second lane of racks if they want, but I think they're maybe still a little bit wary, wondering whether or not the Arkosh cores have those buybacks available, so they're going to play it a little bit safer. They'll pull back and maybe look to push for the tier 2 top rather than swing all the way down to the bottom lane.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is they know that Glyph is coming up. They know that this tier 2 top is probably going to be forfeit. If they do Glyph for it, then they would probably smoke and try to find even more picks into it, but okay, hook.
There's no damage right now, though. What are they going to do? Monkeys is coming in. There's Pale Horse TPing onto the tower, but by that point, the Dismember's done. Costabile pops the God Strength and the ult. They're going to just march their way in there. Gremlo's been taken down. Meanwhile, the Eclipse, that is unfortunate. Hit by the Fear immediately. That Terrorize forces Pale Horse away. He's hitting a Siege Creep, and that's it. And I think it's starting to fall apart here. They get the root down onto the Luna. Pale Horse does pop the BKB, though. He's going to try and fight his way out of this. His teammates are coming up behind him, so this is potentially doable. Oh, that's a problem. Canis Vulpus pulled in by just kind of a stray Remnant. If they catch him out, they'll take him down. No buyback available. Pale Horse will die as well, and it's full-on retreat time here for Arkosh. No, it's GG time, actually, as they'll just call it there.
Yeah, not a lot of hope in that game after a certain while. It was just way too solid from Four Zoomers. They did, I feel like, everything right. They were really seamless in their execution. It felt like they were getting the picks they needed. It felt like Z freaking Gunner were syncing up to find those pickoffs whenever they were trying to split the map on their side. I feel like the biggest issue was there was no really significant threats coming out from Arkosh. The biggest threat they had was you have this Luna farming up her items steadfast, trying to get whatever she can in the little time that she is allotted, and she's getting her items, but at the same time, Costabile is matching her every step of the way and then some, and all of the other heroes really just start falling by the wayside. Just feels like it was a little bit of an outdraft, but also they were very static on the Arkosh side. I really feel like they didn't get to make those dynamic plays that maybe a hero like the Storm Spirit would have felt a little bit stronger. I really felt like even though they won the lane pretty handedly on the OD, it really felt like you weren't able to make plays in a lineup that, again, you had damage, but you had very little control. A little bit too reliant on, I think, Monkeys Forever for someone who really didn't have that much of a good game either.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's exactly what we were talking about in the draft. We liked the Brewmaster, but it could not be relied upon as the primary option for them to take fights. And the further and further we went in that game, the more it became obvious they didn't really have much from the other cores, or even the other supports for that matter, to really make those big team fight plays happen. And Split itself really just sort of lost efficacy as the game went on as well. So incredibly well played by Four Zoomers, coming in their first match with Costabile in that carry position. And you wouldn't really have been able to tell just by looking at that game that that was the first match he had just really played officially with that squad. They seem to be sort of firing on all cylinders. So they've got themselves a little bit of momentum here. Obviously, that is just game one, though, so we do have a second game coming up, but we are going to need to see some adjustments from Arkosh, really, for sure, if they want to sort of fight for the 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I think also just get him on a spirit. If you can get Canis Vulpus on a spirit, I know the Odie's his thing, but just try something a little bit different out because it really did feel like they just felt way too behind.
So we'll see what it is they come out with draft-wise for Game 2. We are going to be jumping into a little bit of a break in between series, and for those of you, actually you can't see because it's sort of cut off on the screen there, but the game coordinator is apparently updating, so there may be a little bit longer of a wait on our end before that second game gets underway, but we will be bringing it to you just as soon as we're all up to date. So sit tight, stick around. Game 2 between Arkosh and Four Zoomers will be coming up in just a little bit.